Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we're going to talk about how could the 2026 midterm election influence the 2028 election, okay? We're going to compare the 2014, the 2018 and the 2022 midterm election, and then what happened in the presidential elections in the years after. And we're going to start with the 2014 election, okay? This is where Obama lost the majority in the Senate and lost even more in the House. And this, we can't really compare many of these seats because even though the Republicans won 8 seats, many of them were quite easy to win, like South Dakota, Montana, Arkansas, Louisiana, and I would say even West Virginia, and to some degree North Carolina. Even though it was an incumbent, Kay Hagan, the only time Democrats won North Carolina statewide, apart from gubernatorial races, senatorial and presidential, was in 2008, when Obama won against John McCain in the presidential year, and also Kay Hagan won the first term as senator. This was not a fantastic year, so it was expected for her to lose, even though many polls were showing her very great there. That didn't happen. One of the surprises of the night in 2014 was at Gillespie in Virginia. The poll said Mark Warner is going to win in a huge landslide. That didn't happen. It was only 13,000 votes. One of the closest elections in the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia. And even in places like Illinois, 10 points in Illinois, but it's very different. Some states right now are different from they were in the past. You can see here Susan Collins still in Maine, won by 37 points, and she's going to be up for the election. If she is going to run for election, I think she's going to win. She's going to run. So next year, that's an interesting fact. But you can see, for example, Cory Gardner won in Colorado, but then he lost in 2020. And the most important point we can deduct, in 2016, after 2014 midterms, Trump won the presidency, even though against all odds, okay? So, can we deduct anything from this? The point is, the Republicans have a great year, and then they won the midterm. They won the presidential elections. The Democrats got an amazing year in 2018, and then they won 2020. But, and there's a big but, the Republicans didn't get an amazing night in 2022. Bad all terms. They didn't get, okay? They failed to conquest the Senate, even though, and they even lost seats because they were 50-50, and they lost one seat, the seat of Pennsylvania, against not a very strong candidate at that moment, John Fetterman, and Mehmet Oz was selected because probably he could be friendly to the suburban areas around Philadelphia. And when he moved to the House, they only got a majority of 222 to 213, one of the closest in the House ever, and now they're still with us, almost the same majority right now in 2024. So this was not a big win. This was not a red wave as many people were predicting. And by that point, this was a very strong year for the Democrats because they almost retained control in the House, and they, just for a bit, they even won more seats in the Senate. So, and in terms of gubernatorial races, they won. The Democrats. The New York Times don't have a map for gubernatorial, but they hold in Arizona. They hold in Kansas, and this was not conceivable. I mean, holding Kansas, even though Laura Kelly's a moderate governor, that was still a win. And then the Republicans won in 2024. I'm not going to say by a landslide because it was not a landslide, but it was I would say, a strong victory from Donald Trump. The point is, doesn't mean if you have a strong midterm, doesn't mean you have a strong presidential year. That is not correlated, but we can learn lessons, okay? And for example, we would say Fetterman won by 5 in Pennsylvania. Probably because what? Probably because Mehmet Oz was not the most, I would say, powerful candidate, even though he did better in only one county in Pennsylvania, Chester County. That was why he was selected, to do better in the Philadelphia suburbs, because probably he was not so antagonizing as Trump was in this part of the state, like Montgomery County, Bucks County. But even he lost Bucks by more than Trump, so that was not a win. And we get to Allegheny County, where Fetterman is from, he did terribly wrong. And in these rural counties, looks like the Trump base did not come out. So if that is true, if so far we're seeing that when Trump is not in the ballot, the Republicans don't have so many chances to do great. Okay, you saw that in 2018. In some of these districts, Trump won by a lot. Like, look at this. Kentucky 6. I know this is a suburban district around Kentucky. Andy Barr won by 6. I'm sorry, by 4. Not even 4, with 3.2. And Trump won by 15. That was a 12-point shift. And the point I'm making is when Trump is not in the ballot because so many Republicans are MAGA and they just vote because of Trump, when Trump is not in the ballot, probably, I'm going to say this is just an hypothesis, but probably the Republicans don't have a tremendous result as they have when Trump is on the ballot. Okay? Because you saw that in 2022, this was a disastrous year for the Republicans. The Republicans were aiming for much more. Yes, they won by 4 in North Carolina. Trump also won by 3 in 2024. But they failed to conquer New Hampshire, for example. I know this was very tough. Don Baldock was not the most impressive candidate from the Republican Party, but they actually tried to win New Hampshire. And then you move, for example, to other states that were not great at all. Arizona, for example, the Republicans were actually trying to win Arizona, both like Masters and beat Kerry Lake in the gubernatorial level, but they failed both. Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto looked like the most vulnerable Democrat, and she even held. I know by a very small margin, but he held. And when you come to places like, I don't know, maybe Pennsylvania was not a great, and even Ohio, I don't mean, they won Ohio with JD Vance, but it was only 6, and Trump won by 8 in 2020, and this was supposed to be a red wave year. And when you go to Georgia, same thing, they lost with Raphael Warnock. So the point I'm making is, this was a terrible result at all. This was very terrible. And then go to 2018, Democrats in the Senate, they lost seats, but this was not because the Republicans did actually a very great job because they lost. This was actually because of the composition of the seats they won. North Dakota, Missouri, and Indiana, those were 3 very Republican, and Florida was starting to shift to the Republican Party after 2016, and now 2020, Trump won by 3, and then Trump won by now 13 in 2024. So Florida was starting to shift. That's why the Democrats were able to lose their seat, but they lost Arizona and they lost Nevada. Okay, actually Nevada by 5 and Arizona by 2.5. So the point I'm making is this was not a great year for the Democrats overall because they lost the Senate, they lost the opportunity. But I'm going to, for example, to Virginia, Tim Kaine won by 16 in Virginia. That was an amazing win. We'll see if the Democrats actually do better this year in the gubernatorial level in Virginia. I don't think so, but we'll see, because this was really an impressive win by Tim Kaine in Virginia, and actually they hold on to West Virginia, which was a brutal win by John Manchin, and also Ohio with Sherrod Brown, as we're gonna run next year, and Pennsylvania by lopsided margin, Bob Casey by 13, in Michigan was by 7, and Tommy Baldwin by 11. So the point is, this was a great year nonetheless for the Democrats, and when you go to the House, they gained 40 seats, and they were strong in 2020. In many of these places, they were strong in the suburbs. You saw that in Jacksonville. So the swings are there. You're gonna start seeing the swings in the midterms when you go approach to the 2028 cycle, because you saw there Miami-Dade shrunk. Okay, Bill Nelson won by a smaller margin. Even though he was more competitive statewide, he won by a smaller margin than Hillary Clinton did in Miami-Dade. And this was starting to shift as you now understand in 2020. Duval County flipped. That was a suburban voters county. You go here to Chesterfield County, 10 points for the Democrats. This was a crucial county for Trump, and Trump won that in Virginia. And you go to Pennsylvania, the suburban parts of Philly were shifting. And that's the point I'm making. You're gonna start to see the shift. So the midterm could mean a lot for 2028. You can start seeing the shifts, and that will matter a lot. Even in Indiana, even though the Indiana I cannot compare because John Donnelly was incumbent, it was a different scenario. I just want to go, for example, to Wisconsin. I cannot even compare because it was a very different race. Okay, bring up from 2014, you go to the Senate. I'm sorry. You see here Virginia going so competitive meant a bit for 2016 when Trump won. Tom Tillis won in North Carolina, Trump won it as well, and Iowa was by almost 9 points, and then Trump won by around 8, I think, in 2016. So this is the point. Some results are, when you get in the midterms, some results are going to the presidential year, and that will tell you a lot Of course, Trump didn't win Maine by 37 nor even by 1, and nor lost Michigan by 13. But the point I'm making is you can see some shifts. Okay, that's the point I'm making. You go to 2022 here as well, and then you go to Florida, and then you saw the shifts in Miami and all of those here, and Rubio almost won Palm Beach County. Ron DeSantis actually won it, and you can see the shifts happening, and that happened in 2024. So the point I'm making is midterms doesn't mean a lot, but it could tell you demographics, and it could tell you how they are changing to the next presidential cycle. So this is the video, guys. I hope you have liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Don't forget our beautiful live stream, our one big beautiful live stream. Don't be mad at me for saying this. Starting at 6:45 p.m. Eastern time on November 4th, and it will be ending at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. Eastern time at November 5th, of course. So don't forget to subscribe and leave your like, and we'll see you in the next. Thank you.